coloring therapy. It's been quite a while since I've shared a project using our Stampin' Blends alcohol markers, which means it's about time. I have a really pretty and really simple project to share with you today, so let's take a look. So as you can see, today's project is very simple. What really makes this card is the beautiful coloring and shading you can get with these Blends alcohol markers. So quickly, I'll mention the Jar of Flowers stamp set and coordinating punch that I used to create these. Now, I have a really fun shaker card tutorial that I shared a while back using this bundle. I'm going to link you to that here. And the other thing I want to mention is if you haven't seen crafty collaborations with my daughter, we made a video together here not too long ago, and this, using the jar punch and one of these shaker domes, was her card that she made for that. It's kind of funny. You should go check it out. But anyway, that was the bundle she used on her card that she made in that video as well. So we're going to be using the Blends markers, and we are ready to get started with that. If you are interested in more information on the blends, I made a very detailed video on it. I will link you here. Now, as we go through here, I'll be sharing lots of tips and tricks, but if you really want the full video on everything you need to know about the blends, then make sure to check that out. So let's go ahead and color these sunflowers first. The colors I'm using for this project, unless I pull any others in, and if I do, I'll let you know that, but I have Mango Melody, Poppy Parade, Pumpkin Pie, and Old Olive. And what I like to do when I am coloring with the blends is to first color in the entire area with the lightest color that I'm going to be using. So on this sunflower, I will be using the Mango Melody, and this is the light Mango Melody. When you purchase the blends markers, you get two. You get a light and a dark of each color, which makes it really nice because you're already set up for blending when you have the light and the dark. Now, I am going to add in just a little bit of Poppy Parade. I believe this is the light Poppy Parade around the center, and then I'll pull some up a little bit along some of those petals. So I color the whole thing in with my light color. I come back with a darker color. Now, if I want to, I can come in with a medium shade. A lot of times I will do that. I would use, say, one of those pumpkin pie markers. It's my medium shade to blend a little bit more, add a little bit more of that dark. But for whatever reason, this time I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to come right back in with my light. If you add a medium shade, you're going to come back in at the end and do exactly what I'm doing right now, which is add that lightest color again and blend it out. So you can use different patterns of brush marks or strokes to do your blending. A lot of people like to make circles. I have gotten to where I do more of a feathering technique. Well, I'll start in my darker area and kind of drag that color towards the lighter area. Now, as this dries, you're going to see the blending move and change. So you don't really know if it is fully blended until it has dried. And then even if you want to, you can go back in again and add some more color. So I will mention this while I'm thinking about it. On my sample project, these are basically the same colors as I am using on this sunflower one. And that's one of the things I really like about the Jar of Flowers set, and the reason I picked it for today's project is because you can color, you can do projects for all the seasons with this. You could even do like whites and blues and grays and make some winter flower arrangements here. But this sunflower you can use all throughout the year, but I thought it would make a really nice fall project, and this one I colored with fall colors. So let's do this again. Let's do one of these other sunflowers. I'm going to start in the same way, but this time I am going to make a darker sunflower. And if you are curious, I have not planned this out whatsoever in my mind. When I get my blends out, I just start coloring. And that is what I really encourage you to do when you start using these, is to just play around with it. I was crafting with a new stamper the other day who had not used these before. She absolutely fell in love with them, and so did my daughter. Here, I'll show you a couple of my 7-year-old's coloring projects that she made with these, and she is absolutely obsessed with them as well. I keep them off limits most of the time with my daughter because she usually manages to run off with my things and then we don't find all of them again. And these are just too important for me to let her run off with. So anyway, I let her use them, and she and this other person I was crafting with just absolutely fell in love with them. So it inspired today's project. But something you want to remember, like I said, there's going to be lots of things I kind of drop in here throughout, but this is the Dark Poppy Parade, by the way. Now I'm going to bring in Dark Pumpkin Pie, and you do have the 2 tips. With these small areas, I have decided that I actually like to use the bullet tip, where in most cases, I almost exclusively actually use the brush tip. But on these projects, I just decided that the bullet tip would work a little bit better. But what I was going to mention, you always want to keep scrap paper underneath because these will bleed through quite a bit, and you don't want to end up with that on a countertop or some kind of important work surface that you may not be able to clean back up. Now I have my dark Mango Melody. So this is actually my 4th marker that I've used on this sunflower so far. And I'm starting in the dark areas, making brush strokes towards the light area to pull that dark into the light and blend it out. So we'll see how these look after we get done. And we may have to do, I'm thinking our 3rd sunflower, I may go even darker than this one to have just a lot of color variation in this arrangement. Okay, now I see one that I missed adding any of that dark on, so I'm going to do that right there. The pumpkin pie. Now come back in. If you can keep a wet edge with this, it really helps. The colors blend best when everything is a little bit wet. So if it starts to dry out, I usually go over it real quick with my light color just to keep everything nice and blendable. Okay, so I like how that looks. Now let's go even darker. So on this one, I am going to make my light color the light pumpkin pie. Another tip is you don't want to color all the way to the lines of your image. Now, with the bullet point, I can get away with coloring to the edge usually, but if you're using the brush tip, what you will find is that the color is going to bleed outside of those lines. So if you stay in just a touch, then when it bleeds just a touch, it will fill in your image completely. My daughter was not very happy with that at first. She was just not impressed with her first try. So we had a little discussion about why practicing is important, and then the next time she just absolutely loved these blends markers. So okay, so I have that colored in with that light pumpkin pie. Now let's go, and we could even go darker if we wanted. I could pull in a cherry cobbler, but I'll stick with these colors. I won't get too crazy on using the whole rainbow. So this time I'll just add a little bit more of this Dark Poppy Parade than I would have on that other one. So you can use the little lines. We can call them cheat lines. The little dark lines give you an idea of where your shadows are going to be on your image. So not all stamps have those, but a lot of them do. So you can use those cheat lines as an idea for where to put your darker colors. And if you honestly don't know where to put your darker colors, you can do 2 things that I suggest. One, pull up a picture of what it would look like in real life. So do a Google search for whatever it is, if it's a balloon or a soccer ball, whatever it is. Or, and then you can use that as your sample. the other thing is sometimes you can just wing it, just go for it and just start coloring. And what I have found is I don't think I have ever put shading in a spot that I thought it looked bad. So look at it with a gentle eye. Look at it with the eye that the person you are going to give it to would look at it with. Don't look at it with that critical eye. There is no being critical for your projects in card making. Learn to appreciate the beauty of what you're creating. Okay, so I am just continuing to drag that dark into the light, and I love that. I think that looks really neat. So now what do we have? We have another little flower, and then we have some greenery and filler type plant material. So I'm debating what color I want to make this one. I think, how about we do some like a red? Let's do red. Let's do pumpkin pie, the dark pumpkin pie as our light color. And then we'll use those poppy parades. So I filled that all in with dark pumpkin pie. Now I'll come in with the dark poppy parade. Certain spots. Now you'll notice I haven't used, like when I've used the dark poppy parade, I don't necessarily use the light poppy parade. You can use all of those shades if you want to, but you can blend colors that are farther apart. So I'm just going to blend my dark poppy parade and my dark pumpkin pie without using that light poppy parade. There are no rules for this. You can do it however you want. That's why playing around with it is a really good thing to do, because you figure out what you like, what you don't like, what works and what may not work as well. Now we are going to fill these in with these old olive markers. I think I may bring in, I believe this is crumb cake. Yes. So not exactly sure what I'm doing here. So let's just figure it out as we go. Let's color this thing up here green. Maybe we'll end up coloring all these green. I'm not really sure. So fill these in. This is the light old olive. And then we're going to come on with dark. Add in some of those darks. I am not being very precise at all, as you can tell. There I see some of those cheat lines, the little dots. So I added some of the dark in that spot. And we'll come back with the light. Blend it out. Now, if you go outside of the lines, don't fret, because we have a way to fix that. If you have it go out of the lines a lot, now that we can't always fix it if a whole bunch has gone out, but you may not be able to see this, but there's a little bit of green right here at the tip of this leaf that came outside of the lines. This is our color lifter marker. And what you can do is start out here on your white space. Basically, you're just going to lower the marker to the paper and push that color back in. And what you'll find is that color goes right back where it is supposed to be. Okay, let's get our olives again. Do some olives down in here on these little leaves. We may just stick with the green here. So all these little white spots in between the flowers, that doesn't look realistic for a flower arrangement. So what I am doing is just filling in those with my green, because there's going to be leaves and stems and things back there. So these, I am not going to color each of those little tiny leaves in. There wouldn't be much color there if I did. So I am just kind of roughly going over the top of those leaves and stems to get some of that color. Now I do want a little bit of darker old olive here. Give it some of that shading. So I'll add this in a few spots, and then I'll go back and blend them just a touch. And then we are done except for the centers of those sunflowers. So this is really fun it's fun to be able to sit down, you know, if you watch TV in the evenings or if you're hanging out with your significant other, your family, things like that. These are nice. You can just stamp a few ahead of time and then you can sit down and color while you watch TV or while you spend time with them. So and here I'm going to use that brush tip since this is a larger area. Like I said, I almost always use that brush tip. So this is the dark crumb cake. What you'll find with these markers is even if you don't want to do the blending, even if you just color in with them without doing any of the blending, the color is just beautiful. It's just so rich and deep. This is our bronze marker. I'll add down there at the bottom of each one of them and in the center. And then blend that back with that light crumb cake. Isn't that neat? So our image is done now. Let's prepare our jar really quick. This will not take long at all. So how I did this, I stamped the jar first with the jar stamp. The stem stamp is actually separate, so I stamped that a second time. And you do want to make sure that you use Memento ink. Memento black ink is the one that is not going to bleed on you. I'm going to color these in with my bullet tip again of my light old olive. So I'll color them all in with that the light old olive. Then I'll add a few darker spots with the dark old olive. Another color that blends really well with this old olive color is the Mossy Meadow. I thought about using some of it and then I just decided to keep it simple. So anywhere that these cross, I figure there'll probably be some shadows there. Down here under where the flower arrangement is going to be, there would definitely be some shadows there. So I'll make these darker up here at the top. And then, like I said, where they cross, those are the spots where I'm going to add the darks. If you want to make this a little bit faster, you can actually start with your darker color. Just add your darker color in those spots where you want it and then come back with the light and blend it. That saves the step of doing the light first. So you can try that if you want to. Doesn't always blend quite as well, but a lot of times it looks pretty good and you might not even notice the difference. Okay, so I have those stems colored. Now what I want is the stamp that's going to fill in the color of the water here. This is one of our reversibles stamp sets as I throw my stamp into view. So on one side is the stamp that is going to stamp the outline in the little hash marks. If I attach the other side to my block, the side that I would not normally attach, this is completely flat and it is going to fill in that jar. So here I have some Pool Party ink. I'm going to ink that completely flat side and stamp it and it fills it in. Really like these reversible stamps. You really get more stamps for your money because you're able to use both sides of the stamps and use them in different ways. So now that I have that done, we can punch it out with this jar punch. And my paper is just barely big enough to fit in there and me still be able to move and adjust where it is. If you ever have a piece that is too small, you can attach a Post-it note to it and that helps give you a little bit longer of an area to hold on to and get it punched the way you want it. So you can see I stamped once on the back side, didn't get it quite right. So there is a second side for a reason. You can reuse that and get more use out of your paper. Now I am going to very quickly fussy cut around this and you're going to be able to see I am not doing this detailed at all. There is not a die set that goes with the stamp set, so this is just a really easy way to get it cut out, but not have to spend a lot of time doing it. Okay, here is our card base. I am going to tie a bow around this jar. I thought that was a really nice touch for the sample card. So I wrap this around twice. This is some of our linen thread. I'll cross it here. Here's a little tip that can really help, is to actually make a full knot here. And then everything stays still for you to be able to tie your bow. There we go. I have a really great video on tips for tying bows that you should take a look at. I'll link to it here if you would like to take a look. But if you struggle with tying bows, I have some really handy tips that could help you out. And one of them, which is kind of funny, is if all else fails and you don't want to tie a bow, you can always tie a knot. Knots look really nice too. Okay, I am going to trim a little bit more down here at the bottom off. All that white space at the bottom doesn't look quite as realistic as I would like it to. So just here at the very bottom, I'm going to do a little bit more trimming. And this is not going to be perfect by any means. What is perfect anyway, really? It just doesn't exist. Okay, so we'll put that there, and then we can add our greeting. So we'll attach this with dimensionals. I like to use my Take Your Pick tool for this, to pick those up. It really helps if your fingers don't always work right, or if you have arthritis. And then you can even remove those paper backing pieces with the same tool. Okay, we'll put that on, and I have my thank you greeting already prepared. I actually pulled this greeting from the Nature's Beauty stamp set. The Jar of Flowers set doesn't have any greetings, so I pulled this in from Nature's Harvest. And we'll add a few of these cute little clear gems. I'll do this with the other side of my Take Your Pick tool. And we will be done in just a second. So thanks so much for watching along. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I use the blends, seeing how beautiful the results can be when you use these to color on your projects. You can find links to all the products I used in the video description below. Please give me a like and a comment while you're down there. Make sure you subscribe, and you have a wonderful day, and I hope you'll be back again when I'll be here next time helping you to hand make with love.